Kevin, we're only a few days away now from the biggest pay-per-view premium live event all year.
Yep.
AEW All In. Kevin, I can't express my excitement enough. Words can't exacerbate my excitement enough. Pal, what are your thoughts heading into this event?
Oh, I can't wait, pal. I mean, this is AEW's biggest show of the year. This is AEW's counter to WrestleMania, and it's back in Wembley Stadium. And honestly, I think on a serious note, I think they've sold like 55,000 tickets or something. That's pretty good. How many people does Wembley hold? Like 80?
Yeah.
80,000?
Yeah.
That's not bad. I mean, considering for the fact that they can't even sell a 1,000-seat arena in Texas or in Kansas City, Missouri. Not bad.
Well, pal, as we've sort of been over, this is sort of what AEW does best. These like the big sort of shows and making them seem like they're worth going to, especially for an international market here, pal. But for the general week-to-week show in Kansas, pal, for the Rampage and Collision taping, where they get 2,000 people in a 15,000-seat basketball arena, yeah, not so much. But for this, as you say, good ticket sales so far from what I've seen. Should be a good turnout on the night. Hopefully they're all loud vocal fans and 55, 60,000 people sound like 100,000 people. And they can really add to the atmosphere of this show because, good matches with a great crowd makes a great show. Good matches with a dead crowd is boring. So there you go, pal.
Yeah, there it is. And so just to get the official number here, it's 50,022 tickets. And last year they did 72,265. I don't know how many of those were sold. I don't know how many of that 50,022 has been sold. I'm just the guy making the commentary. But nevertheless, it is AEW's biggest show, pal. Go ahead.
It must be said, you reading out those numbers, as soon as you just said the raw numbers, my first thought is, I can tell there's going to be some agenda, some narrative. Well, AEW's declined by 30% from last year to this year because of the amount of tickets sold at this show. I assume that's some Twitter narrative. AEW's fallen off because the ticket sales are bad. It's like, well, 50,000 seats in a massive stadium is still pretty good, in fairness. Let's just be honest here. But nonetheless, pal, let's clock that. We're here for All In, pal. Which match do you want to talk about?
What do you want to talk about, pal? Let's talk about the big, exciting match that all 50,000 people bought a ticket to see this match. I know it. This is the one on the top of the poster, the big bill. This is the match, pal. Chris Jericho versus Hook for the FTW Championship. Got to kick it off there, pal, on a high note. The man who starred in the Terrifier 2 and is going to star in the Terrifier 3, Chris Jericho, baby, with Big Bill in his corner, is going up against Hook, defending the FTW Championship, pal. So, should we have the conversation again about Jericho? Well, let me ask this. Let me ask you this question about Jericho. When will it end? When will this guy stop holding AEW pay-per-views hostage and championships and factions?
What more can we even say? I mean, it's nearly 2025, for God's sake. Pat, we're almost in the second half of the 2020s. We're pushing towards 2030, just about. And Chris Jericho is still running rampant on AEW TV, getting big slots of TV time. It's not even like he has no TV time. They're just throwing him into a match. He gets meaningful TV spots, most Dynamites. He gets segments where the whole segment is ridden around Jericho and the vortex and the artillery of Jericho, pal. Look at him. Look at Jericho and all he can deliver. Kevin, I'm going to ask you, because you're the Wrestling Uncovered guy here. Is Chris Jericho's 2020s the most blatant, worst wrestler holding on we've ever seen? Like, I'm thinking as the other options, Ric Flair in like the 2010s especially. I'm thinking some could say even The Undertaker in the back half of the 2010s, where some of the matches were like, just dude, stop, retire. This is bad. And so, yeah, he's wrestling it All In, pal. Will the match be any good? I don't know. Probably 2 3/4 stars on Art Slideshow Review. It'll be in the middle of the card, and we'll move on. Who cares? Why is it happening? But Kevin, yeah, anyone who you can think of who's held on worse?
People will say Hulk Hogan. That'll be like a popular name when you hear that, like when you get that question. But Hulk Hogan, he came in like '05. It was like, I'm going to bury Shawn Michaels. And they had one match at SummerSlam. Then he had another match after that against Randy Orton at the next year's SummerSlam, buried him. And that was kind of it. You know, like Hogan, he had that little run in 2002 where he got the title. And he was making WCW all that money in the late 90s, so nothing there. Like Jericho, and then to differentiate Jericho from the guys you mentioned, from Undertaker in the 2010s, from Flair in the late 2000s, early 2010s. Jericho's doing this every week. Every single week on Dynamite. Every single pay-per-view is a Jericho match. Like, he doesn't take breaks. You know, you like a guy like Chris Jericho should be an attraction. Like, oh, okay, we got Chris Jericho here. He's going to do a 3-month program. Oh, it's Jericho versus Jack Perry, pal. Big match. And that's it. But no, we got Jericho here every week. All right, we spent enough time talking about Chris Jericho, so I'm going to transition here. Mercedes Moné versus Britt Baker. This match I think is more interesting to talk about from a backstage standpoint.
Yeah.
Not even from what's on camera, because what's on camera, we've seen like Mercedes Moné just be like, I'm the CEO, I'm a bad bitch. And then Britt Baker's like, no, I'm a bad bitch. And that's kind of what the buildup has been if you haven't watched the segments. Now, the backstage stuff is a little bit more interesting because, you know, Britt Baker is like, apparently these two really don't like each other. Britt Baker, she's had that line where she's like, oh, you were one of 4 and I've been one of 1. And somebody tweeted that that's like Brian Scalabrine telling LeBron that, like, I'm one of 1, you know? It's like... so they don't like each other for real. What, any thoughts on this, pal?
This looks decent on paper, and that's how Tony Khan books. If you strictly look at, Mercedes Moné, so Sasha Banks, by her slave name, you know, Sasha Banks versus Britt Baker. Yeah, I look at that and go, that's a solid match. Like, I'll be into it when I'm watching it. I'm sure I'll be watching the match. I'm not going to be rushing to the bathroom, take a piss. That'll be for the Jericho match. I'll be, closely watching it. But yeah, as you say, when you look at the build, and that's what you touch on, you've got Mercedes cutting promos, which is getting ripped on all these wrestling podcasts. You've got wrestling Twitter people who live and breathe wrestling, who are fairly neutral, and even like AEW fans are like, this ain't it. Some of this Mercedes stuff it's not it. So you've got that, and then I watch it and go, okay, like I'm excited for it on paper, but then you've got people who just are more into this and have more stock in this than I do, who are saying just this isn't it, this isn't good, and so I'm like, okay, but like, yeah, the match should be good, I hope, but yeah, I mean, the behind the scenes stuff just takes it over, and so it's you're one of 4, pal. You're one of 4, pal. I'm one of 1. I averaged 50 in the Chinese league. You're one of 4 in the NBA, pal, with LeBron, Curry, Durant, and Kawhi Leonard, pal. You're one of 4. I averaged 55 in Asia, pal. That's what this is. I don't know, pal. What do you reckon?
Yeah, I think on paper, or in people's minds, in wrestling fans' minds, and like in their fantasy dreams, the fantasy dream matches, Mercedes Moné and Dr. Britt Baker would have been like at the top of the list, right? When Mercedes first comes into AEW. And we're getting it here 5 months into her run, and it doesn't have any buzz. And if you listen to people that are diehard like AEW fans or diehard Mercedes Moné fans, you would think that this match, Mercedes versus Britt Baker, would be like at the top of the poster. This would be the match with all the hype. Mercedes and Britt Baker facing off would be what you see on the last Dynamite, the Go Home Dynamite. That'd be all over social. And it's just not that way. It's just not. Like, I'm sure the match will be fine, but I don't know. Whatever. Good.
Pat, one more thing on this before we move on, because you mentioned that in with like the matches, like you're looking at the card as we speak. Most of our listeners know the card, or we'll be watching. Where does Dr. Britt Baker and Mercedes Moné rank as far as like general intrigue on the card? Because it's not as interesting as the Bryan and Swerve match. It's not as interesting as the MJF and Ospreay match. Most people, myself included, look forward to Tony Storm, Mariah May more. That's 3 right there. Then I think you can start getting a bit subjective, and it's like, oh, well, I prefer to see the Darby Allin match. I prefer to see the Casino this, or I prefer to see the big tag. So you can have this like halfway down, or even pushing towards the bottom of the match, like the order of the matches you really are interested in seeing in this show, which for Mercedes and Britt Baker 4 or 5 months into Mercedes' run, that should not be the case. This should be like the second match you're most looking forward to behind like the main event world title match. But it's just not. Which that falls on Mercedes Moné. I'm directly blaming Mercedes or Sasha for that. She hasn't lived up to the hype then. Like that's a fail. Tony Khan's paying her, who knows, ridiculous amounts of money. Her match should be bigger than this. It should feel bigger. But anyway.
I agree, man. And it's just sad too for me because like I was so into AEW when it first started in 2019. Now we're at a point 5 years later where it's like, man, like even a big show like All In just doesn't have the same oomph that it once did. You know, like really for me, the biggest match here is Swerve versus Bryan Danielson. And then it's like, you kind of like pick it as scraps after that. Like everything else will be good in ring, as is usually the case with AEW. You know, Jack Perry and Darby Allin to be a fun match. You know, those two guys do crazy stuff that'll make CM Punk mad. You know, the big tag team title match will be fun. You know, but it's just like something's missing. You know, and I can't help but think of that promo that Adam Copeland cut where he's like, "We are the revolution," as he's talking to like 1,200 people.
Yeah,
and it's like let's be real for a second. If Tony Khan didn't have like unlimited money and unlimited bankroll, right? Like if he didn't have his hedge fund, his trust fund money, AEW wouldn't be around right now. If this was started by somebody with less money, you know, it's I don't know. The TV deal. Have you heard the rumors about their TV deal?
What about it? What about the rumors?
Well, it's just like they've been reporting now for like 6 months, like, oh, AEW and Warner are still very happy, but neither side have reached a deal. Like nobody wants, none of the journalists that Tony Khan is paying off wants to say, hey, look, it's not looking good. AEW is probably not going to get renewed. So if they lose that TV deal with TBS, like I don't know what's going to happen, man. I don't know. We're in really dark times for AEW, but the transition there. Go ahead, unless you want to say anything.
I was going to say, yeah. I mean, like, because I mean, on paper, about half these matches are good matches. I'm sure the show will be a good show. No one's really disputing that this won't be a 7.5, 8.5 out of 10 like show on the night. But as we well know, you need more than good combinations of names on a piece of paper at a pay-per-view. You need a well-run, intriguing product with good storylines and characters. But nonetheless, pal, I want to segue into the women's matches, which is actually a bit more intriguing. Timeless Toni Storm and the glamour Mariah May, pal. I think this is, I guess, the build has just been much better than the Mercedes Moné build. Like the Mercedes and Britt Baker build, I mean, you mentioned the promos there before, pal. This one with Toni Storm and Mariah May, at least it feels like a storyline on the show where the two performers have built it up. They're going to clash at the show. I have more inherent interest in this. Who wins? I don't know. Waits to be seen. Toni Storm's had a really good run last year and a half. Realistically, just as pretty much the main act in AEW's women's division. Does Mariah May win here, pal? What do you reckon?
I don't think so. I don't know, but nothing would surprise me. If she did win, I wouldn't be surprised. But I do think you got to keep rolling with the hot act. You got to keep striking while the iron is hot with Toni Storm. If she loses the championship to Mariah May, and let's say Mariah May is not really what everybody thinks she could be, then what do you do at that point? Then you just hot shot, put it back on Toni Storm. But I mean, a lot of people like Mariah May, but I don't know. I'm not too sold on her yet. I want to see what she does in this big spot with Toni Storm.
No, fair enough. I quite like Mariah May personally, but yeah, I get what people are saying on that. I could go either way. This one, look, I don't know. I think the main takeaway is not so much how good the match will be, because I mean, matches are matches, whatever. But just how much this, which has just been chugging along, building up to the show. This is like a more traditional build up to a pay-per-view match. And then you got all the Mercedes crap. You got podcasts going there saying Mercedes is a waste of a signing. How the Mercedes and Britt Baker storylines broken down into like breaking kayfabe lines and promos, the same way CM Punk's ones did. The same way the Punk feuds just turned into that in AEW. Oh, we don't want you here. You only were spoke on the wheel in the other company. I'm the one of one AEW. The people back there don't like it. It's broken off into that for Mercedes, which is like, I don't know. I don't keep harping on Sasha, but if she's getting paid like the sixth most of anyone in AEW, she needs to be talked about in this regard, I think.
I agree. Yeah. All right, so let's talk about the World Championship match. Bryan Danielson versus Swerve Strickland. And this is the match going into this show, as it should be. And I think it'll be match of the night. I think it'll be very good. Bryan Danielson has his career on the line. Swerve Strickland has his title on the line. Adds a little intrigue to it. Danielson has hinted at retirement. But then he said, I don't know if I retire. So you never really know. He likes to troll when he does interviews. Do you think this is it? Is Bryan Danielson hanging it up here in London in Wembley Stadium?
The thing I will say, and credit to AEW on this, and the build for this I thought was been quite good. Bryan's promo on Dynamite I thought was really good. He was emotion charged. He was yelling. He was passionate, really like hyping you up for like the match just in the days before the show, which is really good. I honestly think this can go either way. I haven't looked at the betting odds. I haven't looked at what exactly Twitter are saying about this or like that sort of thing. To me, I look at this and go, either you have Bryan Danielson, who in all realities, he's everything AEW embodies. Give him like a farewell send-off run with the title. If Swerve Strickland loses to Bryan in a 30-minute 5-star classic, is that going to bury Swerve? No. Like, this is going to make Swerve win or loss. So this can go either way. If like the show ends with Bryan crying, putting his boots in the ring, waving to the fans, hugging people after like a 6-star main event match in front of 60,000 people, that's a pretty good send-off. If he wins and he's holding up the title with like a one last run, that's a pretty good ending of the show as well. I think it's a win-win either way. This match is going to be fantastic. What do you think?
Yeah, I do think Bryan Danielson deserves a run with the AEW World Championship if anybody out there truly deserves it. That guy's been phenomenal. He's been, as we talked about, their best free agent signing. He is really their biggest star right now. MJF, we'll talk about him in a minute, but MJF stock is kind of going down a little bit. Mercedes Moné's not worked out. Will Ospreay and Okada are not really clicking with the American audience the way that you want for a star. So that leaves Bryan Danielson. And I think he's a good guy to carry the company. And I think with him at the helm, at the top of the card, I don't want to say it would bring AEW new heights. That would be ludicrous to say. But I do think that could help get AEW back on the right track in a way that they haven't really been in like a few, like what, it's been over a year now, really, since we've been talking about AEW being in a slump. Honestly, from a creative standpoint. But I think Danielson is he could be a step in the right direction for them creatively and getting out of this funk.
Well, Danielson's very stable.
Yes.
Like, you know exactly what you're going to get. He's a proven name. We have him top 30 all time. But from strictly in ring, many people have him as the greatest of all time. So, yeah, it'd be a safe bet. And give him a 4 to 6 month run with the title. And then he loses the title. And that's the end of his career. And he bids adios to wrestling, and he comes back and makes a comeback in 6 months. That's how wrestling works. So, yeah, pal, it should be a great match. I can't wait. Pal, do you want to move on to the next match?
Yes.
Pal, this one is huge. This match, you're calling the friends. You're calling the family members. You're canceling your trip to Colombia to watch this match, pal. You've got, your work colleagues. You got your neighbors down the street. You're saying, come on, let's go. Let's go. I've got the quesadillas. I've got the chips. I've got the vodka ready, pal. Let's bring it in. I've got some, dipping sauce, pal. Let's watch this match. All right. I'm referring to Jack Perry and Darby Allin, pal.
Wow, yes.
In the coffin match, pal.
Yep.
You're going to be sitting there, edge of your seat. Oh my God, Jack Perry's got him in the coffin. Oh my God, Darby Allin's out of the coffin. Oh my God, Darby. Ah! That'll be you, pal.
Oh my God. Wow.
Talk to me, pal. This is a coffin match, the AEW's TNT Championship, pal.
That was a great impression of me.
That didn't renew inside the NBA, pal, nonetheless. Pal, what are your honest thoughts on this match?
I have a lot to say about Jack Perry, but I've already said it a million times, so I'm not going to say it. I'll just analyze this match, pal, from an in-ring standpoint. This match is going to be nuts. I mean, this is going to be maybe the most violent match on the card. I would say that's pretty safe to assume that it will be the most violent match on the card. These guys be doing everything from maybe diving off the top of the ramp, pal. You're going to have thumbtacks and fire and tables and chairs and barbed wire covered baseball bats. It's going to be a good match.
There'll be glass. There'll be glass. Will be real glass or fake glass.
Somebody's going to be crying a river, right? Yeah, it's interesting to see Jack Perry getting a push. I don't know what that says about the management or the status of AEW. It's just interesting to see Jack Perry getting a push with some of the things that he's done. I mean, if he did what he did in 1985, we'd be watching a Dark Side of the Ring episode on Jack Perry.
He would have been killed backstage.
Yeah.
Like, there would have been some scandal, like someone would have knifed him backstage because of what he was doing. Some big tough meathead wrestler who's just like addicted to steroids would have done something. But nonetheless, pal, yeah. Now we'll be watching the coffin match, pal. All jokes aside, probably go on third or fifth on the card or whatever. Be a fine middle of the card match. This will be the violent match to the show. You'll have them pulling out real like death weapons. You'll have real glass. You'll have Darby Allin will get thrown onto like spike shards that go straight into his spinal column. Like, great. Will Darby Allin get set on fire, pal? Will the United Kingdom's like Lord Mayor have to sign this off? I don't know. Nonetheless, pal, I don't really care who wins. I honestly don't. But there you go.
Yeah, that's the thing with some of these AEW title matches. Like whoever wins, it feels like it doesn't really affect the greater good of the show. So it's like, oh, title change. All right, so let's talk. Do you want to talk about the tag team matches?
Yes, I do, pal. Can we discuss the Young Bucks one first?
Yes.
Because this one we've got another combination of Young Bucks and FTR in a match. This time they got the Acclaimed also in there as well. Three-way World Tag Team title match. Kevin, not to divert attention from this match, but AEW's been around going on 6 years, and the big thing for them 5 years ago was the tag team division is going to be the best thing you've ever seen in wrestling.
Right.
Has the tag team division in All Elite Wrestling lived up to the hype, just generally?
No.
Because they've had some great, they've had Lucha Bros. We all know the talents they've had in this tag team. And Young Bucks, when they were the tag team in the world, FTR's come across. They've had so many great teams. Omega and Hangman Page were even a team for a while, pal. SoCal Uncensored. There's like a massive list of teams in All Elite Wrestling. I'm missing a lot of them. Does the tag team division lived up to the hype?
No. Not at all. At this point, AEW is just above average wrestlers getting all they can from Tony Khan, getting all the paychecks they can, all the paydays. That's how it feels. I mean, that's how it feels to us as fans when you and I are taken away from the bias. We're not doing this as like to hate AEW or be anti-AEW. That's just the feeling I get when I'm looking at a card like this that's just thrown together. And then I'm looking at, Dynamite segments from like 4 or 5 months ago where the Young Bucks are showing clips of Jack Perry getting beat up by CM Punk. And you could tell they don't want to do it. Just like at this point, they're just like, give me my money, Tony. And the Lucha Bros, the biggest stars in the division, they're going to WWE. That's the rumor. So now we're here just getting a random 3-way tag match for the sake of it. That's going to be a good match. It's going to be great. But why should I care about it?
Pal, WWE are like the Boston Celtics. Storied, major franchise. One of like the cornerstones of the cornerstone of the industry. A lot of success. Bit of controversy with management and like some stuff in previous decades, but realistically, yeah. And AEW is like the Charlotte Hornets, like a small market franchise. People go there to get paid. There's controversy behind the scenes. It's ran questionably. People go there to get paychecks. The professional standards aren't the same. Like AEW lacks the professional standards. And we see that with a number of these builds and a number of the backstage controversies we've discussed. Everyone knows, the Twitter stuff alone, with the boss going on Twitter, getting a pill with 12 followers. We've discussed all this. But when I look at this match now, 5-6 years into AEW, the best tag team division ever assembled. And I'm going, has it lived up to the hype? No. I don't think it has. They've had some good matches along the way, yes. They've done some good stuff, yes. Has it? Can I look back in good faith and say that has lived up to the hype? No. And now we're going to get this match at All In. 3-way tag match, the AEW World Tag Titles, Young Bucks, FTR Acclaimed. Once again, probably a good 4 1/4 star match. It'll go 21 minutes. On paper, it'll look good. 4 1/4 stars, good match. You've got to love it. But what does this do for the grand scheme of things? As you say, like where will some of these talents be in 6 months, a year, 2 years? What does this look like for the business as a whole? I don't know. So yeah,
Yeah, exactly. All right, so now should we talk MJF and Will Ospreay now?
you lead this one, pal.
All right, so there was a promo last Wednesday, so yesterday, as we're recording this, last night, pal. MJF, he's talking to Will Ospreay, and he's like, "Oh, after the conversation I'm gonna have with your wife tonight, your second kid is not gonna be yours." Ooh, ooh. And I had to Google what that meant because I had no clue. I was like, "What is MJF referring to?" I have no idea. And of course, Will Ospreay is married, and he is raising his wife's child from a previous marriage. So I'm like, okay. So I had to look this up and do like some real digging on Will Ospreay's life and personal life to know about what that reference that MJF was making. So we're at a point in 2024 where MJF essentially held AEW hostage from a financial standpoint. It was like, if you want me to go to WWE, I'll do that. You just, you're not paying me what I want. And he holds out, whatever. He took a few months off and he's injured. And where is he going to go? Then he shows back up. What was that? February, March. Mm-hmm. Shows back up with a tattoo and everybody's like, oh, MJF's back. And everything that MJF's doing now feels forced. That's the best way I could put it. It feels forced. Essentially, he's walking out there with this American Championship after he beat Will Ospreay for the international title. He called it the American Championship. He's walking out there doing a cosplay of JBL in 2004, and he's dressed as Triple H from 2001. So I'm like, okay, what is original about this guy anymore? This was the most original character, the big star, the now of AEW for so many years. And he's just been, since they turned him babyface last summer, he's been just snowballing in the wrong direction. His stock was, at one point, the hottest stock in AEW. Now it's just going down. And I don't know if it's going to trend back up anytime soon.
Did winning the world championship, well, not winning it, but did his world championship run do more harm than good?
For him?
Because like that was a year ago now. It was about a year ago now that they were commencing the Jay White storyline.
Yeah.
And things really got derailed because the Adam Cole stuff was actually, in all fairness, quite good. It's just injuries and all that sort of stuff sort of derailed it. But the last year, because this is AEW's like most prized chess piece. Like, yes, Bryan Danielson, their biggest star, sure, but he's like within a year away from retiring. Right. Ospreay hasn't proved himself in front of a North American Western audience. Okada is the same. The Young Bucks, Moxley's not really the same at the moment. Like, MJ, this is your guy. And yeah, it's like, oh, your second kid won't be yours. In a different company, he would have not explained Ospreay's whole family history. He actually had a couple of lines in the lead up. But when he delivers the punchline, like that line, it's like, oh my God. But you have to Google it. And that's not because, you're not an informed wrestling fan. No, just because you and I and most people don't know the intricate family history of each wrestler, that's not an us problem. That's a company problem who's putting on the show. It shouldn't be up to us to Google this stuff. I don't know. Yeah, I get what you're saying, MJF. It's tricky because he's literally gone in interviews and said, I held Tony Khan out for money. I felt disrespected. I wanted X amount of money and I put my stake in the ground and Tony had to pay me. And it's like, okay, so I guess MJF's just here, obviously just existing for the money, sure. Great. If he cared about his legacy, he would have gone to WWE. That's just my opinion. If he wanted to really establish himself for the next 10 to 15 years as the next Cody Rhodes, the next Roman Reigns, he'd be running around in Connecticut at the moment. But I guess the cash is too nice, pal. The Khan family daddy money is too nice, pal. I don't know. So yeah, we can get a great match here, pal. Ospreay. In the grand scheme of things, what's this going to mean for any of them? It'll be a good match, but that's the whole point. I mean, you mentioned something similar earlier. It's like, yeah, this will be another lot of good matches. But what does it really mean? Is there a grand scheme of this, or is this just a good show and just a line of good shows? What is the purpose? I don't know, pal. What do you reckon?
Yeah, I mean, I'm thinking like, okay, if we were more tuned in and we were on the ground watching AEW every single week, tuned into like the YouTube shows and their social media, it would be different. Like we would know some of these things, right? Like, and that's fair. Yeah, you can say that. That's fair. But I can also say on the other side, right? Just a WWE, I guess, comparison for a moment. The CM Punk McIntyre storyline that has been heavily surrounding CM Punk's dog and his wife. I don't watch WWE. I don't watch 8 hours a week of WWE. I catch what I can of Raw and SmackDown, and if I can't catch it live, I watch the clips and I read maybe an article or two on Bleacher Report, on Backstage Rumors, and wrestling overall. And I can tell you, okay, CM Punk's wife is AJ Lee. His dog is Larry. It's very clear. It's there. From my knowledge, this storyline wasn't really about Ospreay's family. We don't have Ospreay's wife out there crying or Ospreay cutting promos like, oh, my kid and my wife mean everything to me. From what I've seen, my vantage point, it seemed like MJF just made this reference randomly. And it's been a disconnect with AEW for a long time. We get these random one-liners and wrestlers complaining about WWE and it doesn't make sense to people who aren't watching 10 hours a week of AEW and following AEW on social media and watching podcasts and all that. And that's that was working at first with AEW doing that. It's not working anymore. Now it's just, I feel like I'm watching a show that's just like, I don't even know how to describe it. It feels like I'm watching a show that is just, I don't even know who it's for. Who is the target audience for at this point?
I mean, what you were saying is once Vince McMahon was uprooted out of WWE, it was like, well, that was a bit of a crossroads moment for AEW because it's like for 3-4 years, their identity was we're not Vince McMahon.
Right.
WWE, Vince McMahon's in jail. Where you want to be, and that was their identity. And they took WWE shots and was like, yeah, good on them to stick it to the evil Vince. But with Triple H running the seamless operation, big conglomerate WWE is, and has been for the last now 2 years especially, it's sort of left AEW in a bit of a funk, really. Like they'll give you good matches, sure, yes. They'll have the great match of the year candidate once or twice a year. They'll have some good PLEs where you look at the piece of paper of all the matches after the show is done and say, yeah, 4-star matches happen on this show. But yeah, like from the direction of like the on-screen product, the lead-ins to these shows, it just isn't the same. And that's not just us being biased. It's just like I watched Dynamite the other week. I'm just like there's something just it isn't the same. And I genuinely think it's the Vince McMahon not being in the picture. And AW's identity as the alternative to Vince is gone. And like they didn't have a plan B, really. When they came into business, it was like, we're not Vince, that's our thing. We're gonna have some great wrestling, some unappreciated wrestlers. We're gonna, showcase the talents, the whatever. But now Vince out pictures all like, oh, okay, well, wrestlers are just taking shots at WWE, making personal references about family members that hardly anyone understands, and we're paying wrestlers $6 million when they deserve $1.5, $2 million. Like that's what we're doing here. So it's hard because they'll put on a really good show at All In. I know down in my mind it'll be a great 8 out of 10 show, another good show. But what's it going to mean come Wednesday on Dynamite? What's it going to mean come the Wednesday after? What angles are they going to give us? What direction are they going to give us? That's what leaves me wanting and asking for more. What's the direction here? SummerSlam gave us 4 big angles. It was an angles show, pal. All In won't be an angles show. I can guarantee you that. It'll be a good matches show. And how far does that get you when you've lost your point of difference in your identity?
Yeah. And it's nice to have AEW to talk about. I just wish it was more exciting and more people cared about it. The more general audience. Like, and we kind of said this. WWE, they're like the MLB, the NBA, NFL, right? They're the big brand, the worldwide recognized brand. If they're doing what they're supposed to be doing and giving the fans the best talent and the best storylines, there is no need for an AEW. There is no alternative to the NBA, MLB, NFL. I mean, we've seen the XFL and the other league that was around. I can't remember the other league that The Rock merged with XFL. They don't make any noise. You know, there's no alternative to the NHL that makes noise.
Yeah.
Now WWE is doing what they're supposed to be doing as the biggest show in town.
Has AEW already achieved its purpose?
Yeah, I think so. I think AEW. Yeah, I mean, if you're saying like if you're asking that with the back end being that AEW's purpose was to wake WWE up and remind them that, hey, look, we're the big show in town. Let's prove it. Yeah, but I don't think AEW did that. I think it was just Vince leaving. Really, is what.
Yeah.
Yeah, like this would have happened anyway. I think even if AEW wasn't around, if AEW wasn't around, let's just say in 2017, all these scandals come out with Vince and Vince steps down, I think we'd still be relatively where we are now with Triple H taking over in 2018, for example. And WWE would still be doing great and it would still be hotter than ever. And just because like the management would change. Yeah. So I don't know if I think, that is an interesting point, but I don't think I don't know. I think at AEW, they need to figure something out, man. They need to look into maybe going international, moving like their headquarters to the UK. You know, I don't know. They need to figure something out.
Yeah, it's a whole separate like 2-hour long conversation as far as like what is the identity of this show? What is All Elite Wrestling about? What is it? And people say about the great wrestling, but many of the talents themselves, as their actions prove, use AEW as a way to cash in, make a great paycheck based on their above average wrestling abilities. And then a number of these talents use that money to phone it in, wrestle the good match at the PLE, the pay-per-view. And then that's just that. Like, and if that's what AEW is about, that's what it's about. And they'll give the fans some great content. They'll have some dream matches from time to time. And some talents will have good careers. They'll make the odd star Swerve Strickland or Tony Storm. And then they'll give wrestlers like Bryan Danielson, Moxley, Claudio Castagnoli, Powell, Omega a chance to really keep showcasing their ability. Is that just all it is? I don't know. And is this negative? No, I'm just explaining what this company is. That's just,
basically, man. So yeah, all in will be a 8 out of 10 show, and it'll be fun. Yeah. And we'll get on here. We'll be like, yeah, great show, pal. And then we'll move on to the next one.
Basically, because I mean, I'd say that. Well, my only point before we go, they need something, an angle, a development. Something that genuinely makes you want to watch on Wednesday after. Because that's what AEW is like. I feel like something like a week to week thing of like, I need to watch this. And they had the chance when it was, yes, we keep harping back on this, but it's so true. When CM Punk was there, you could have had him versus Omega and the Young Bucks and done a real like company, like involved the whole company, like the biggest storyline in AEW's history. It was on the table for them. Tony Khan fell over. He dropped the toys on the ground, pal. The Phil Brooks toy went somewhere else. The Young Bucks toys are now like showing clips of, All In from last year with beat ups from, I don't know, pal. I just feel like, it's a bit of a waste of potential. You can see what AW can be, and then you see what they do with their decisions, and you go, it's disappointing. I don't know, pal. That's me. Any closing thoughts?
Yeah, exactly. No, that's pretty much it. So yeah, let's get out of here and we'll talk to you guys on the next one.
Peace.